Right now, there is an urgent search for this mom who seemingly vanished.
Response 6243 Structure fire.
And to make this case even more of a mystery, she vanished as firefighters responded to her house for a fire that they say is suspicious. She wasn't there, but her purse was on the counter and her car was parked in her driveway.
It's completely abnormal for her to go this long without talking to her kids or reaching out,
We just spoke with Britney Gard's family. The specific item they say law enforcement is now looking for that could be critical in bringing Britney Gard home. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. The story that we're talking about right now involves a mom. Her name is Britney Gard. She's 46 years old. She lives in Indiana, and she's the mom to 2 kids. But at this point, she is missing, and there are a lot of questions. This story, it is just odd at this point as law enforcement is trying to figure out where she went. Here's the flyer put out by deputies in Putnam County, Indiana. It's roughly an hour's drive west of Indianapolis. Now, Britney was last seen on September 30th, the last time that law enforcement can confirm that she was either seen or heard from was at 9:24 that evening. I just spoke with her family. You'll hear from them in just a moment. They tell me one of the big items that law enforcement have not been able to find since she went missing is her phone. That phone, which is an iPhone, they say, it wasn't located at her house after the fire, and they haven't been able to find it, at least on their end, using any of the publicly available apps that can help find iPhones. The Putnam County Sheriff has said that the FBI's cellular analysis team is involved looking for any digital footprint that could create a trail. Now, here's what we know about the timeline of when she went missing and where we are at this point. So it was a day after she was last seen or spoken to, according to deputies. That was around 9:30 September 30th, that the next day she didn't show up to her daughter's volleyball game. Now, that was very odd because her friends say that Britney Gard was her kid's biggest cheerleader. This was even her last post on Facebook, September 29th, at one of her daughter's volleyball games. Roughly 24 hours later, that was the last time anyone has seen her.
Response 6243 Structure fire.
Now, not only did she not show up for her daughter's game on October 1st, but here's a major twist in this story that is raising a lot of concerns. Firefighters were called to her home around 7:39 the night of October 1st because smoke was showing from her home. Firefighters put the fire out inside the house, but they say Britney wasn't there. There was no sign of her. Her car was parked in her driveway, and they found her purse inside the smoke-damaged home. Now, we don't know the official cause of that fire or exactly what may have been lit on fire inside the house. We don't have pictures of that at this point. We do know that the home was damaged by fire, but that was pretty much it. And this is the big one. Firefighters believe that those flames are suspicious. Now, when we type in Britney Gard's address into Google, her home comes up. It appears to be in a rural area, kind of on a country road, surrounded by trees and farmland. It's unclear if there are any neighbors that would have like a Ring doorbell to be able to get any sort of idea where Britney Gard may have gone. Deputies in Putnam County say they used drones the night of the fire to try and find this 46-year-old mom of 2, but from what they've been telling us, there really has not been a trace. Authorities say they even searched a pond near her home, still nothing. Now, we looked into Gard's past, and she doesn't have much of a criminal record. There are a few traffic tickets in there. That's according to our partners at truthfinder.com, but that's really it when it comes to a criminal record. I spoke to Britney Gard's sister and brother-in-law a short time ago.
The Putnam County just put a press release out, I think, in the last hour. We were thrilled to see that they're working with the FBI. So that was new information. They finished up their investigation in the house yesterday and turned that over to the family last night. And still she's just vanished. It's like unbelievable in this day and age. How do you completely disappear?
And I know you've probably been asked this question a couple times at this point, but has there ever been any moment like this where she's done something like this before?
Never. Never.
As far as the fire, I know that they've called it suspicious and they believe it started inside the house. Like, what more have you learned about just about that? Because I know the timing of it was incredibly suspicious, because I know she wasn't showing up to that volleyball game.
I guess from a timeline perspective, I'll give you the compressed version. Our niece spends half her time with her mom, half her time with her dad. She was at her dad's house. She spoke to her mom the night before. Typical, good night, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow at your game. I don't think Brittany's missed any of her volleyball games in any of them. So it was a big surprise when she didn't make it to her daughter's volleyball game. And then when she got a ride home with friends from the team, the fire department and the police were there. So that all transpired Wednesday evening. And then since then, nobody's had any contact with her that we can find since Tuesday night, and then the fire was on Wednesday, and no one's had any contact or been able to find her. And unfortunately, all the normal family find your friend, tracking, Life 360 things, she's just gone. We have can't find her anywhere. Can't find a clue in any direction.
When was I know it was in the evening on Tuesday night that the sheriff said was the last time she was seen or heard from. What do you know anything about what she was doing or who the last person was to actually see her?
Physically see her in person, I'm not sure. I believe her daughter had a game on Monday night and she was at that because she played volleyball again for the school. And as far as I know, I don't know anyone that saw her. I just know I received a text from her on Monday morning, which wasn't abnormal because I had texted her because we were coming in town to visit already that following weekend, and I was trying to coordinate getting together and seeing her with my kids. So it's. Yeah.
Does she live with anyone?
No, she lives at home by herself, and her daughter stays with her when it's her time.
And was there anything going on? And I, I'm sure you've been asked this one as well, but anything going on in her life that would explain any sort of disappearance?
No, we just saw her. Stephanie and I just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and we live in outside of DC, and Brittany and Bailey, our niece, came out and celebrated with us. Spent a week, tons of, just playing every day, out on the water, and there was, no indications of anything at all. She's a private person. It's a small town, but this has caught everybody in the family just completely by surprise.
What do you want the public to know? I know that you're doing a lot to spread the word on social media, and I know there's a lot of searching going on out in Indiana, but what do you want the people to know who are hearing this story for the first time?
For me, I want them to know that we are worried for her, scared for her. If she hears us or sees this or someone saw something, please call 911 or the Putnam County Police. Please report. Please share whatever tips you have to help us bring her home safe. Her daughter and son need her. They're hurting really badly right now. It's completely abnormal for her to go this long without talking to her kids or reaching out. it's been difficult.
Law enforcement considers Gard missing, endangered. They have not hinted at any foul play at this point in the investigation, but certainly there are a lot of unanswered questions, and this story is very much a mystery. Anyone with information on Britney Gard's whereabouts should call the Putnam County, Indiana Sheriff's Office. All right, we need to take a moment and take a break from this episode of On the Case to talk about something really important, because when we cover true crime, obviously, we see a lot of stories that show that life can change in an instant in ways that you could never expect. I certainly think about that myself when it comes to my own family and making sure my kids' futures are safe and secure. That said, life insurance is one of those things that no one wants to think about until it's too late, because you don't want to think about a day where you might not be there for your family. Maybe it's to pay for college or to keep a roof over their heads. But having a term life insurance policy in place right now means that if something unexpected does happen, they'll have more protection, and you get a little bit more peace of mind that you did everything in your power to help protect them in the future. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance that you can get done today. It is made for busy parents, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch, and you could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. Millions of families for over 50 years. Their high-quality policies are designed with flexibility to fit your family and your budget, like up to $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. They also offer all sorts of other features like free digital wills and even investment tools to plan for your family's financial future, and everything is easy to access right from your phone. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. You can apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/OTC. That's meetfabric.com/OTC. meetfabric.com/OTC. Anyone with information on Britney Gard's whereabouts should call the Putnam County, Indiana Sheriff's Office. Join us now to talk a little bit more about where this case could go next is retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt. Thank you for being with us here on Law and Crime. The last time that Britney Gard was seen was on October 1st, so it's been a couple of days since then. What's law enforcement doing right now at this stage of a search where it doesn't seem like there's been any sign of her?
Well, first thing they would do canvass the neighborhood and canvass for video and talk to the neighbors, talk to friends, talk to family members, and most importantly, talk to any spouse or any children and see what they've said, or if there's any issues of domestic violence or anything that was going on in the recent past. Then the second step, as we've talked about many times, is the phones. If they have a phone, or if they have her phone number, they'll ping that number and see if they can identify, where that phone is, because 99% of the time, if they can find the phone, they can find the person.
If they don't physically have the phone, if you have the phone number, I just think of internet search history sometimes can tell you a lot in these cases about what someone was going through or thinking at the time that they disappeared. How do you get access to something like that if, let's say, you don't have the password, you don't have the username, but you're looking for someone's Google searches?
Well, if they were Google searching on their phone and they have a phone number, generally speaking, the law enforcement or the investigators can kind of backtrack and get into the cloud through court orders, and then from the cloud they can find the Google search history, and then from there they can find out exactly what's going on. So it's a multi-step process, but it's basically following the trail of internet dust, so to speak, on where this person has been.
What does it take to actually get the court order? In an urgent search like this, how difficult is it to get that court order and then eventually get that type of information back with the digital footprint?
Well, generally speaking, they have to show some sort of crime occurred before they can get the court order. And right now, she's just appears to be a missing person. So that would be the first step, is if they can predicate or give some probable cause that there is a crime that has had or has occurred. And then the next step is they have to write a lengthy affidavit, submit that to a judge, and then get that up to Apple, if it is an Apple, or Google, if it's an Android, and then from there, get the information back, which sometimes takes a couple of weeks, and then start their analysis.
And at this point, she is considered missing, endangered. There's been no mention of foul play by law enforcement. I'm sure there's a lot of people where their minds go that way when you have suspicious circumstances like this, but how does law enforcement approach a case that is just at this point a missing person, as opposed to it being something where you have evidence that a crime occurred?
Well, once again, it's going to be the canvas, and then apparently there's quite a few family members and friends out there canvassing, and then they're going to do a preliminary investigation to see if there was any history of domestic violence, or if there was some sort of issue that she may have had with some stranger, or some sort of run-in with somebody that was had some psychological or mental issues, and then they kind of backtrack from there. Unfortunately, in cases like this, if there was a crime that occurred, it's usually, statistically, it's going to be a family member or a friend or a close associate.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the fire, because that took this from being, okay, it's certainly suspicious that this woman wouldn't show up to her volleyball game, but then you have a fire that all we know is it started inside the house, and they believe it's suspicious in nature. So we don't know if it's arson, but we also don't know how much damage it did. But they said it was a fire-damaged home. There was smoke billowing out of the house. What type of evidence can you take away from a fire scene?
Well, that's a question for arson investigators, but
Sure.
the arson investigators, especially with local and fire department arson investigators, as well as the ATF, are very, very good at finding those clues, because if there was some sort of catalyst to the fire, that's really, they'll know based upon smell, based upon location, based upon the way the home was set up, and then from there they just follow the trail of clues, as well as they're going to see if they can get any ring camera activity or any maybe even do a geos fence around the home to see what kind of phone activity was going on with the cell sites.
I know that they've used the local sheriff's office, and I'm not sure the specific model, but they used drones to kind of look over the area. It appears, just based off the address and from what we can see, it's a very rural community, which is as expected outside of Indianapolis. What type of information, beyond just the visuals you can get from a drone, the type of drone that law enforcement typically has, what kind of information can you get from that?
Well, it doesn't appear that the drone they used had any FLIR technology on it, nor would it be useful. FLIR is the forward-looking infrared technology to find people or animals. So they're just trying to see context here to see, okay, is there areas that she could have walked to, she could be hiding? Is there areas where a body could be hidden? Is there, suspicious activity? And then basically from there, they're going to be able to kind of put the puzzle pieces together and determine where they want to focus their search.
I know the cliche line is the first 48 when it comes to a crime and whether it being solved. But in a missing persons case like this, it has been a week, and I know that law enforcement may have more information than they're letting on, but it doesn't appear that they have a lot at this point, at least that they're releasing to the public. A week in, how does the approach you take as a member of law enforcement searching for somebody change compared to when you first learned that that person went missing?
Well, unfortunately, there's priorities for law enforcement. So after a week, if they don't have any real good leads or anything to kind of sink their teeth in, they're going to have to move on to other crimes, other things that are going on. And so that's why the first 48 is so important, because the next 48, there's going to be another crime, another issue, another problem that law enforcement has to address, because law enforcement is set up to react. So the fact that the family is out there still doing the search, they can freshen the trail, so to speak, get some leads, get those to law enforcement, and then law enforcement can re-engage and find out exactly what happened.
I know there's a lot that we don't know, and I'm not trying to speculate too much, but the fact that she just seemed to vanish, and that's kind of a dramatic word to use, but her purse was in the house where this fire took place, her car's in the driveway. It doesn't seem that there was any evidence. From what we've heard, it doesn't seem like there was like some sort of sign of a struggle where like a door was broken, and I don't know if the fire would have an impact on that. How common in these types of cases do you see just this lack of evidence at this point about where she may be?
Well, I don't necessarily think there's a lack of evidence. I just think there's a lack of information that's being shared with the media. So law enforcement doesn't want to show all their cards, especially if they have a suspect, because they're going to confront that suspect with that information that only the suspect would know. So I think there is probably a lot more going on here. I'm confident law enforcement is not leaving any stones unturned. But before anybody speculates about the lack of information, I think time will tell exactly what is going on here.
And you touched on this a little bit. What are the conversations like inside, in this case, a sheriff's office, where you're getting a story that has a lot of attention, the family is involved, they're getting her face out there, the public is certainly interested in this, it's reached the point where it's national news. What are the conversations like when it comes to, okay, we're going to release this bit of information to the public, or we're going to keep this close to the vest?
Well, that's usually management gets involved, sergeant, detective sergeant, and then there's probably a team of investigators on this and that are very experienced, and they understand that certain information is going to prompt certain statements out of suspects. So they don't want to release information that obviously is going to negatively impact the investigation. And well, as they're kind of playing chess here, and sometimes they'll let information kind of trickle out to basically kind of flush somebody out of the weeds, so to speak, to see if they'll come forward. But I think these investigators are holding all their cards very close to the vest, because they are trying to pieces together and frankly play chess with this information before they reveal what's really going on.
She didn't have much of a criminal record from what I could find. It was a couple traffic tickets, but for the most part was not involved with law enforcement. How much time does it typically take where you're trying, I mean, if you're, and I know you were with the FBI, but let's say, the detective that's put on this case in the beginning, how much time does it take to figure out the profile of this person who you're trying to find and all the different associates she may have had, or what may have been going on in her life at the time she went missing?
Well, that depends on if she's leading a high-risk lifestyle, and basically in the FBI we call it a victim assessment, especially in a violent crime. So if it's a high-risk lifestyle, as in prostitution, then the profile, so to speak, is going to be a little bit more voluminous, because that person's going to come in contact with lots of strangers. But in this case, it sounds like it's going to be pretty straightforward. But once again, we don't know. Once they start diving in and seeing what's in her background, that's really going to open up the profile and also potentially open up suspects to if this indeed was a violent crime.
Yeah, I know it appears that she worked for the U.S. Postal Service, was a mom is a mom to two kids, and often goes to volleyball matches. And I know from her family's perspective, she's never done anything like this, at least from what we know. Mental health issues, haven't heard of that as of yet. As this case goes forward, because really it's been in the last 48 hours, which would be several days after she went missing, that this case started to get public attention. How does the public having an interest in a missing persons case impact how many resources are actually put into it?
Well, it does quite a bit, because it reinvigorates the investigative resources, because frankly the law enforcement doesn't want to be questioned that they left some stones unturned. But it also does come to the point where they're just out of leads, and once they're out of leads, they have to wait, or they have to do something to generate more leads. So I'm sure that the management of that police department is kind of leaning in on the detectives, and then they're probably going back, re-interviewing people, making sure there's nothing left, no stone has been left unturned, and then at some point they're going to be out of leads, and they're going to have to kind of wait and see what develops.
Yeah, what happens to, and you talked about this a little bit before, but let's just say they, in even a couple days from now, there's absolutely no sign of this woman, Britney Gard. There's no leads that, maybe the leads that they were following, they come up dry. Like, what, even if the public is interested, like, what happens to the case? Is it just sitting back and waiting for someone to call up and be like, hey, I think I spotted her at a location?
In many cases, yes. If there's nothing more for the detectives to do, they have to wait. They put out, wanted or missing flyers, keep interacting with the family to see if there's any new information that comes out, and checking in. But at some point, if there's no new leads, law enforcement has to move on to the next case and basically continue to do what they need to do to keep the community safe.
Yeah, and you have, and just kind of looking at this case, and it's this, mom of two, seems like she was, and you can only tell so much from social media, seems like she was active in her kids' lives, like, went to their volleyball games often. You have this fire at the house. I mean, just for you and your experience, when you first saw this story, like, what stood out to you about just where we are at this point?
Well, the fire, you know, if that's obviously really creates a lot of suspicion that there's something nefarious that went on here, because that would be somebody making an effort to maybe hide evidence or destroy evidence. So that's the first thing. And then the disappearing without a trace, it's just very, very unusual, especially in this world of us being connected via phones. And the fact that she doesn't have a high-risk lifestyle that we're aware of. So there's a lot of questions to be answered here, and I think law enforcement will get to the bottom of it, but it's just going to take some time.
Yeah, and when it comes to, I know her purse was left behind. I think that was on like the kitchen counter. And you think of like the cell phone might be in there, credit cards. When someone leaves behind, and if it's a case where there was foul play, but when this person is missing and these personal items in their purse are left behind, what does that tell you as well?
Well, that tells me either they left in a hurry or they left under some other means. Because generally speaking, women don't leave anywhere without a phone. You know, maybe they may leave a purse behind, but they're going to have their phone with them, and or a wallet or some sort of identification. That's just culturally what's going to happen. So the fact that these things were left behind also is very suspicious and causes concern amongst the law enforcement, because if there was nefarious activity, everybody knows if you don't have a phone with that person, then it's harder to track that person.
No, it's just a very interesting case. I mean, certainly odd, the circumstances surrounding it. Hopefully we'll get some answers soon. Retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt, is always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.